Take a look at this. I saw this in the news today. The mysterious rise of cancer among young adults in the Corn Belt. This is from the Washington Post, saying in Iowa, young cancer patients are making the small state a bellwether of a generational reckoning. So they're seeing skyrocketing rates of cancer in young people. I wonder what could possibly be causing that. Couldn't possibly be the factors that the Maha movement is pointing out, the same factors that many claim to be a giant conspiracy theory. Well, what isn't a conspiracy theory is the fact that young people are seeing skyrocketing rates of cancer. And this is incredibly alarming. Washington Post wasn't the only one. This was in today's news, but just a couple of weeks ago, the New York Times reported on something very similar. Why are more young people getting cancer? So this is real. This is not just something that a bunch of quacks online are talking about. Cancer is rising amongst young people, skyrocketing rates of cancer. Older people are getting it as well, but younger people, we're seeing a skyrocketing rate of cancer. The New York Times article, they pointed out that recent analysis shows that a significant rise in the incidence of cancer among young people under 50 in the United States over the past decade. Those born in 1990 face a quadruple risk for rectal cancer and more than double the risk for colon cancer compared to people born in 1950. What? People born in 1950 have, to have quadruple the risk of somebody who's in their 70s and you're in your 40 or your 30s. You're in your 30s. 1990. That's very, very alarming. Going back to the Washington Post story, they report that there is, now they kind of try to focus on just the Corn Belt. They're saying that there's a higher risk for them in particular. They're saying the cancer risk for young men in these states, in the Corn Belt states, is 35% higher for skin cancer, while young women face a 66% greater risk compared to peers in other regions. And Iowa now ranks 5th in cancer incidence for adults under 50, with total new cancer cases expected to reach about 21,000 statewide in 2024. And kidney, renal, blood-related like leukemia and skin cancers are the most affected in the Corn Belt. What could be causing that? Now, Washington Post does point out, well, it could be the pesticides. They're the farm. Just imagine this, though. This is like the farming capital of America. This is where they grow all of the feed for the animals. This is where a lot of our crops are grown. And if people that are living in these regions, because they're spraying all these pesticides, if people living in these regions are being also sprayed with they're clearly, if it's skin cancer, they're clearly being sprayed. They talk about those chemtrails. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory, don't you know? And pesticides on the food. Don't be a quack. And yet, meanwhile, people in these areas that are being sprayed with these pesticides, when people have been saying there's a real problem here, you think you're just poisoning the bugs. We're all living things. You're poisoning all of us, and you're poisoning the food. And guess where the food goes? It goes everywhere. It goes to, if it's feed for the cattle, then they're eating it. And guess what you eat? You eat the cattle. Or if it's if it's being sprayed on all the crops, guess what you're eating? You're eating the crops. This is completely alarming. Which is why really there needs to be a bipartisan effort to fix this rather than it just being, oh, that's a right-wing conspiracy theory. Let me just show you some of the graphs that were included in the Washington Post. Here is the cancer rates. This is the top line there that is skyrocketing. That is nationally, cancer prevalence for adults 50 or older has declined since 1999, while rates for adults under 50 have risen. In Iowa, rates for younger adults have risen more than the nation as a whole. And that top line there is Iowans ages 15 to 49. And then the faint blue line just underneath it, that is the entire United States. So that's where Iowa is in comparison to the rest of the United States. Again, this is where we're growing our crops. And they're being sprayed or something. There's a lot's going on. Something's, we can speculate what that is, but certainly they need to be looking into this. Iowans 50 and older, they have a lower rate of cancer overall, than the younger group, but they are still higher than the rest of the United States, which is that lowest faint line, 50 and older. You're seeing that gray faint line. That is the cancer rates across the country. So Iowans are definitely suffering. So there's clearly something going on here. And but what can anybody do about it? They certainly are not going to be able to sue. In fact, here is Kenzie Dryden. She grew up on a farm in Iowa, which had crop dusting every year, and she was diagnosed with cancer despite being an athlete. And her cancer was ranked the second fastest growing in the country. So this is her telling her story.
Various things happening today, and it impacts everyone in America, but no one knows about it. Glyphosate is a pesticide used in Roundup, and guess what? I'm a cancer survivor, and I grew up on a farm in Iowa. We'd have crop dusters come in once a year. I would run around barefoot. I was on the cross-country team. I was running around the fields like every day. Iowa is number 2 in the U.S. for cancer, and it has the fastest cancer growth rate in the U.S. There's so many studies that link Roundup and glyphosate to endocrine disruption, to autism, to all these different kinds of cancers, Hodgkin's lymphoma, which I have, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, like so many. This is in all of our food. Some people that think they have like a gluten sensitivity, it's a glyphosate sensitivity. It's in organic foods. It's in everything. Like it's literally in Cheerios. It's in Nature Valley bars. Glyphosate is everywhere. Literally no one knows about it because there are people being paid to cover it up, so we don't talk about it. The reason I'm freaking out about it is that Iowa Senate is voting today to pass a bill to protect all of these foreign pesticide companies from any kind of legal accountability. What? Meaning they can't be sued for giving people cancer? Already had to settle thousands of lawsuits for links to cancer. Now they're getting protected. Like, you know you're guilty. You know you're guilty. Just really scary how they're trying to protect company profits over people's literal lives. It's life or death here. As someone that literally lived on a farm and had cancer, I'm like really upset. So I'll link on my Instagram story where you can send a message to Iowa senators. I think, oh, this is just Iowa, but no, this sets the precedence for federal legislation later. Awareness is the first step, so just know this is real and that this is happening, and please warn your friends and stay safe out there.
Yeah, it isn't just Big Pharma that's protected. It's also these big chem companies. What she's talking about is that on March 27th of this year, the Iowa Senate passed a bill, later named, it's been dubbed the Cancer Gag Act, that would shield pesticide companies from lawsuits alleging failure to warn about health risks like cancer, provided the product had a federally approved label. The bill's proponents included Bayer and agricultural groups argued that it prevented frivolous lawsuits, while opponents noted that it could make it harder for victims to seek legal recourse for harm caused by pesticides such as Roundup. And she's right. I mean, anything for profits, anything to cover for the big company profits that lobby our lawmakers and ensure that the people the lawmakers swore to protect are in fact being poisoned and killed because there's money in it. Dr. Asim Malhotra, he writes, I'm afraid one of Britain's most eminent oncologists, Professor Angus Dalgleish, may well be right on the COVID vaccines fueling cancer. So it's not just pesticides and chemicals that they're spraying all around, but we all know that the vaccines have been accused of this as well. This study, published in a very respected high-impact journal, is significant and concerning, and he's talking about this this study it was a Korean study, and I'll go through some of the findings on that. It says, in conclusion, COVID-19 vaccination could be associated with an increased risk of 6 specific cancer types, including thyroid, gastric, colorectal, lung, breast, and prostate cancers. Notably, this COVID-19 vaccination association cancer risk was likely more elevated among individuals aged 65 years or less. What is that sign? You know what? I never can know. Is it when it goes this way or when it goes that way? Is it less than or greater than? I think that's less than 65 years old. So it's elevated amongst people less than 65. Sorry, guys. I have to look because I always get confused on that. It's like less than or equal to. Okay, yeah, so it is. It's less than or equal to 65. I swear I went to school. I swear I'm somewhat educated. Except in individuals with prostate cancer. So prostate cancer was still more prevalent amongst people older or greater than 65. Given the observed associations between COVID-19 vaccination and cancer incidence by age, sex, and vaccine type, further research is needed to determine whether specific vaccination strategies may be optimal for populations in need of COVID-19 vaccination. So this right there is saying that they're seeing elevated, this is the study right here, actually. 1 year risk of cancers associated with COVID-19 vaccination, a large population-based cohort study done in South Korea. And the findings revealed that the vaccinated population, those who were vaccinated, so they looked at vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and they found that with COVID-19, and they found that the vaccinated population had a 27% higher risk of developing cancer within 1 year compared to the unvaccinated group, with elevated risks for several specific cancer types, including lung, prostate, thyroid, gastric, colorectal, and breast cancer. The study controlled for confounding factors such as age, sex, comorbidities, income, and prior COVID-19 infection to strengthen the validity of the comparison. So peer-reviewed study published saying that people who were vaccinated have a 27% higher risk of developing cancer within 1 year compared to the unvaccinated group. And these other studies we were talking about in the Washington Post and New York Times, what were they saying? They said over the past decade. Well, guess what happened 5 years ago? COVID-19. And guess when they started vaccinating everybody? That was within the past decade. So, they say within the past decade, but I'd be really curious to see what the rates were literally 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, right? Until we get to that point where everyone started getting vaccinated, I'd be curious to see what were the rates from there to there. And of course, they often will buffer it by saying, the last 10 years, because they don't want to expose what the real cause might be. Although I think there's multiple causes of cancer. I don't think that it's just, and I know you think this as well, that it's not just the vaccines, COVID vaccine. I mean, of course, pesticides, they're spraying all over the place. Of course, the stuff that they're feeding us. Of course, there's a variety of things that could be causing it. But we should know about it so that we can protect ourselves, right? So that is what Dr. Asim Malhotra is talking about. And the fact that the prevalence is greater in the younger population is extremely alarming. Dr. Mary Talley Bowden also mentioned something interesting in regards to the South Korea study that came out. She says South Korea is seeing a 27% increase in cancer, but the U.S. government is hiding cancer data. So we got that cancer data, the 27% increase, from South Korea. What about in the United States? What about in the United States where people are already less healthy because they're being sprayed with all kinds of chemicals and pesticides? We already live an unhealthy lifestyle. And then you factor that in on top of it. You layer that in on top, the vaccines on top. What are the rates for us? I mean, it could be higher than South Korea's 27%. So she's saying, the South Korean study from the South Korean data showed 27% increase in cancer, but the U.S. government is hiding cancer data. The CDC has not updated the numbers since 2022. So call the CDC today and demand them to release the data. And she gives the number 1-800-CDC-INFO. That's the number to call to demand the data. And then she shows this image here, which again is citing the Korean study. All COVID vaccines increase cancer risk. New study concludes. A South Korean study of over 8 million people reported an increased overall cancer risk of 27% linked to the mRNA and non-mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. So not just mRNA, COVID-19 vaccines in general. And this is, people, when they talk about the vaccine, they'd say things like, well, I mean, how do you know it's the difference between those who were vaccinated and those who had COVID? Well, everybody got COVID, but a lot of people also got the vaccines. And those people are now 27% linked to higher risk of cancer in that first year. The researchers found higher risks for 6 specific cancers. Mainstream media criticized the study. Of course, the mainstream media did. Mainstream media instead was saying, well, in fact, let me show you what mainstream media says. They say, actually, you guys, don't you know this, that, where is it here? It's not. Oh, wait, hold on. Here it is. I got to show you this. Oh, sorry. Where is it? I guess I don't have it. There was a mainstream media report saying that actually, it was from Nature magazine, saying, well, it was reported on all the mainstream media, saying actually it turns out that the COVID vaccines helped with cancers. They of course said that. Let me show you. This is. I gotta love this guy. This is Dr. John Campbell, and he talks about a similar study, but one that was actually done in Italy. Let's go ahead and watch that.
Well, a warm welcome to this talk. Now, there's been concern for some time now from talking to various experts about the increased risk of cancers, probably all types of cancers or many types of cancers after COVID vaccines. Now, of course, we're deprived of data in the United Kingdom between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. We just can't get that information freely. But there has been a study done in Italy. And what this shows is increased incidence of cancers 6 months after COVID vaccinations. And I'm going to give you that now. Let's have a look at this in a little more detail. So people that had vaccinated with at least one dose, their chances of getting colorectal cancer, the hazard ratio was 1.34. In other words, 34% more likely to get it. This is at a 6-month follow-up. Breast cancer, 54% more likely to get breast cancer in the vaccinated group. Bladder cancer, 62% more likely to get it than the unvaccinated group. Breast cancer, so that was after at least one dose of vaccine. After 3 doses of vaccine, 3 or more doses, risk of breast cancer actually went down somewhat to plus 36%. And bladder cancer was a 43% higher chance of getting bladder cancer. And all of these results are significant. So all of these are statistically significant results showing increase in these cancers 180 days after the first vaccine or 180 days after the third vaccine if they'd had more.
Wow. Okay. So basically, we're seeing a skyrocketing increase in cancer rates, especially in the group that it shouldn't be happening to, which is young people. So, look, I mean, whether it be pesticides that they're spraying everywhere, plastics, endless pharmaceutical exposure, we are a drugged up society. We're taking all kinds of drugs, endless pharmaceutical exposure, or even, the long-term effects of the COVID shots. What we know is this is happening, and it certainly, absolutely does not do us any good to brush it off as a conspiracy, which is what so many want to do, especially on the left. They're against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the MAHA movement. They're against the anti-vaxxers, right? They just say it's all a conspiracy theory. But look, mainstream media is reporting on this, that there is a higher rate of cancer. That is not a conspiracy theory. And rather than just saying, it can't possibly be pesticides or vaccines or big pharma in any way, everybody should be frantically trying to figure out why this is happening, right? Everybody should be figuring out why this is happening. In the meantime, we have to figure out a way to treat the cancers and save lives. And this is where there is some hope. There are scientists out there who are working on ways to help the body fight back naturally, not with mRNA, not with genetic editing, not by overriding the immune system, but by retraining it to do what it is designed to do. And this brings me to the sponsor of this segment, Oncolytics Biotech Inc., trading on NASDAQ under ONCY. Now, this might be a company you want to keep on your investment radar, or even for yourself in the terrible event you're diagnosed with cancer, which apparently it's 4 out of 10 people. Oncolytics Biotech is developing a therapy called Pelareorep. Now, before you tune out thinking this is another big pharma pitch, stop. This isn't big pharma. This isn't a synthetic drug cooked up in a Pentagon-funded lab. Pelareorep uses naturally occurring virus, not mRNA, not gene editing, a normal virus that only infects cancer cells, not healthy ones. So here's how it works, and it's kind of brilliant. Cancer hides. It fools your body into thinking it's harmless. That's why your immune system just lets it sit there. Scientists call those cold tumors. Pelareorep finds those hidden cells, multiplies inside of them, blows them up from within, and when that happens, your immune system suddenly sees what's going on. Boom, the tumor turns hot. The immune system wakes up and attacks it. So you've got 2 things happening at once. 1, the cancer cells die directly. 2, the immune system gets retrained to go after any others that try to come back. That's real immunotherapy, not gene tinkering, not chemicals that destroy everything in their path. Your immune system doing its job again, and it's working. Pelareorep has already shown encouraging results in pancreatic, breast, and gastrointestinal cancers, some of the deadliest, hardest to treat forms. The FDA has even fast-tracked it for pancreatic and breast cancer. Even more interesting, this isn't a one-trick drug. It's a platform therapy. That means it can be combined with standard treatments like chemotherapy, or maybe perhaps you're doing like the Dr. Makis protocol, and Pelareorep can double or even triple their effectiveness because Pelareorep activates the immune system. It makes every other treatment work better. And here's the kicker. In gastrointestinal cancers, there are 0 competing immunotherapy options, 0. And Pelareorep is the only potential platform therapy out there that targets what's called the RAS pathway, which, by the way, is the hottest area in cancer research right now. About a third of all human cancers involve RAS mutations. So you're talking about a treatment that could apply to an enormous number of patients. This is the kind of story the mainstream financial press ignores until it's too late, and then suddenly it's an overnight success, 20 years in the making. Right? That's exactly what happened with Ambrx, another little biotech that got bought out by Johnson & Johnson for $1 billion. And guess what its market cap was before that? About $50 million. The same ballpark Oncolytics Biotech is right now. So let me put this for you plainly. Oncolytics is an overlooked company with proven science, operating in a $16 billion GI tumor market, using a natural virus-based therapy, not mRNA, and it's showing real safety and efficacy data. Meanwhile, competitors like RevMed, worth $8 billion, and CG Oncology, worth $3 billion, each focus on a single target cancer. Pelareorep has platform potential, meaning it could work across many. And you could check their October 2025 investor deck for yourself. The data's all there. But here's the bottom line. This company's been building quietly for 2 decades, and suddenly all the pieces are in place. The science is there. The safety data is there. The market is wide open. It's not a big pharma empire. It's a small Canadian biotech doing real science that could change the game. So if you care about the future of cancer treatment, or frankly about investing in companies doing things differently, then look into Oncolytics Biotech. That's NASDAQ ONCY. The link is in the description. This isn't financial advice. Do your own research. But it's one of those stories where you think, how is this company still under the radar? And it's, because if they keep showing the kind of results that they're already showing, they won't be for very long. That's Oncolytics Biotech Inc., ONCY, the sponsor of today's segment. But again, our greatest hope is, of course, actually preventing all of these cancers to begin with. But the bottom line is people are, especially young people, are being diagnosed with a lot of cancer right now. And it is terrifying and atrocious. And, we could spend all of our energy on just, we got to figure out what's preventing it, which figuring out what's causing it so we can prevent it, which we should. But we also have to be working on therapies and figuring out ways to cure it, because unfortunately, a lot of young people right now are, in fact, being diagnosed with cancer. And it's just really terrible. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversenShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversenShow.com. See you there.